Welcome to this episode of the Super Simple Homeschool Podcast, where we help you find purpose in your homeschool while keeping things super simple. I'm your host, Jenny Hedrick, and today we are going to talk about interest-led learning and how it can help you keep your kids engaged with their studies while becoming lifelong learners. My husband and I are big fans of YouTube University. Have you heard of this? You can learn how to do anything you want just by finding a good YouTube video. It's great, right? I mean, when I learned to crochet 20 years ago, I learned 2 stitches and used those stitches to make scarves, pot holders, and blankets. Basically anything rectangle. I didn't know how to read patterns, and the terminology was too confusing. Someone had to show me the stitches for me to see how to do them. This past fall, I found YouTube videos to teach me all kinds of stitches and how to do things like crochet in 3D. I even made crochet turtles for my nieces and nephew for Christmas. It was fun to learn it. Have you done this? Learned how to do something new through YouTube or the internet? Well, what motivated you? Was it because someone said you had to, or because you wanted to learn it? If you were motivated by your own interest in a topic, chances are you enjoyed learning about it and have a much better chance of remembering what you learned. The same is true for our kids. Kids are inherently curious, and if we can harness their interests, we can teach them how to learn like we do. Today, I'm going to share with you a type of learning that revolutionized our homeschool called interest-led learning. Interest-led learning is the idea that we learn best when we are interested. In homeschooling, this means allowing your child to explore their interests, follow rabbit trails, and dive deep into a subject until their curiosity is satisfied. I stumbled on interest-led learning a few years ago when I was scouring the internet for ways to help me keep my active boys engaged with school. All they wanted to do was play video games, but dangling that carrot as an incentive to do schoolwork just made them rush through their work without giving it any real thought or effort. Additionally, it elevated video games as the end-all be-all. I was frustrated because I really wanted them to care about U.S. history, the revolution, and the founding of our nation. I wanted them to get excited learning about plants and animals and science, but they just weren't interested. My son, who would gripe and complain or find a million distractions during a 15-minute history lesson, would then go spend hours focused on drawing Minecraft characters or Pokemon. It was then that I found fun schooling books by Thinking Tree. They are themed notebooking journals for interest-led learning. They are essentially guided research journals. Instead of teaching kids what you want them to learn, you teach them how to learn and let them decide the topic. Let's consider history, an important subject, no doubt. I kid you not, this was my least favorite subject all through elementary, high school, and even college. In fact, I barely passed my required college history course. I remember trying to stay awake at my desk, and failing, by the way, much more vividly than I remember anything I read or was supposed to learn. I think my final grade for that class was a D+. Contrast that to the 4.0 I earned in graduate school when I was only taking subjects that applied to my degree. Why the difference? Because I just wasn't interested in history at the time. But guess what? I love learning about history now. I love reading historical fiction and researching the actual events. I'm fascinated by historical documentaries. And because I'm interested, I can remember what I've learned much easier. By teaching your kids how to learn instead of what to learn, you can give them the gift of exploring their interests and teach them to become lifelong learners. But this doesn't have to be all or nothing. You could choose to do this just one day a week, 1 month of the year, or take a week each quarter. It's a tool to help you explore some alternative learning ideas to keep things engaging for you and your kids. One year, every Friday, we would do what I called exploring interests. We would spend the whole school day learning about whatever was interesting to my kids at the time. We would use library books, websites, and YouTube videos. By providing high-quality resources, you can give your kids everything they need to pursue their interests. As their parent and teacher, there are things you can do to help guide and facilitate this process. One way to facilitate interest-led learning is a technique called strewing. Strewing is simply leaving things around for your kids to discover and explore. It's a way to introduce them to new activities, topics, and ideas. It could be leaving out a collection of library books or games on the kitchen table. It could be craft supplies, a nature camera, or a bird feeder. The sky is the limit. Instead of telling your kids, this is what we're going to do today, you leave things out to ignite curiosity and natural exploration. You let them decide what they want to explore and how they want to use it. Strewing does have some basic principles. The first is no expectations. You let them decide the direction they want to go. You may want to do a study on rocks and minerals, but they choose an anatomy book. Anatomy it is. Another principle is to let them explore what they are interested in, even if you don't think it's exactly educational. You can make anything educational, as we'll see in just a minute. Lastly, allow them to keep exploring until their curiosity is satisfied. If that takes a day, great, move on. If it takes 4 years, so be it. Don't assume you know how long something will hold their interest. And don't do what I did, run out and try to find classes and resources for anything and everything they expressed an interest in. Chances are they're going to lose interest before they get to any of that. Now, we just read books, watch videos, and learn as much as we can first. Then, if they're still into it, maybe we'll look for a specific class on OutSchool or through somebody local, depending on the topic. For more on strewing, I'll leave a link in the show notes. Another way to encourage interest-led learning is to build your child's learning around their interests. For example, do they like Minecraft? You know mine do. There are these Minecraft STEM books that you can get that include a real-world science project and then an in-game counterpart build. You could write a Minecraft-themed story or create a Minecraft-themed comic book. Create some Minecraft math for them to do. There's so much math in Minecraft. Create a spelling list of Minecraft words. Study all the different biomes that exist in Minecraft and what they are like in the real world. Do the same with animals and the elements. You can make it work. My son had lost interest in math, but he was crazy about Minecraft. That's when I found a Math for Minecrafters Fun School journal. Both of my sons finished the whole book in less than 2 weeks. They loved it. They begged to do math. That was 2 years ago, and I recently gave the same book to my 6-year-old daughter, and she finished it in the same amount of time. So, how exactly do we do it? Well, we combine interest-led learning with notebooking, which we talked about in episode 3. But here's an example. Keeping with the Minecraft theme, say your son just learned about electrical circuits and then built a redstone light sensor in Minecraft to apply the concept. He takes out his notebook and draws a picture of what he built, or maybe he prints a screenshot of it and pastes it in. Then he writes a few sentences about what he learned, using correct sentence structure, spelling, and grammar. If he struggles with writing, he can dictate to you or to the computer. And that's notebooking in a nutshell. I have a complete guide to notebooking on my website, which I'll provide the link for in my show notes. I know some of you are thinking, okay, but what does this really look like in a day? I mean, there has to be some structure, right? Of course. And you can structure your day however it works best for you and your kids. We start with morning time, during or right after breakfast, which includes our Bible study and catechism. Then we'll do stations, where the kids rotate having time with me one-on-one for reading or math. We have some time for independent learning after that, in which the kids read or listen to their library books, watch pre-approved YouTube videos, and complete notebook pages. Some days during this time we work together, listening to our nature-based science podcast or our history audiobook. Some days it flows well. Other days it's more chaotic. Yet every day there's learning. So how do you start? To get started with interest-led learning, start paying close attention to how your child spends their free time. It may give you some ideas of what interests to pursue or how to incorporate into their learning. Next, try strewing some different books, activities, and games to see what catches their eye. Maybe you have a child who's really into outdoor adventures like hiking and camping. Check out a few library books on survival skills, orienteering, and bushcraft. Leave them on the coffee table with a compass and some twine. Show some bushcraft videos on YouTube. Well, select wisely, lest you end up with holes in your backyard for underground shelters. Not that I know from experience. Decide how you want to incorporate interest-led learning into your homeschool. I shared how we explored interests on Fridays one year. I've also let our boys choose the topic of their science curriculum for the year. Another thing is that we love to get out the fun schooling journals in February when we are bored from cold weather and need to mix up our routine a bit. Remember, interest-led learning is just another tool that you can use however it works for you. By teaching your kids how to learn and letting them explore their own interests, you'll find them to be more engaged with what they are learning, resulting in a more enjoyable experience for everyone. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Super Simple Homeschool Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, would you share it with a friend? Don't forget to subscribe or follow so you never miss a future episode.